Last week's Budget 2018, tabled by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak, announced a whole host of measures aimed at addressing various problems. Initiatives were announced in key areas of the economy, such as the rising cost of living, affordable housing, the empowerment of SMEs, and digitalizing the nation's economy. Some announcements particularly caught attention, like the slashing of income tax for certain tax brackets, the threefold increase in the bonus of civil servants, and the increase in maternity leave for the private sector. But there are many other important announcements made that did not get as much attention. This week on Astro Awani, we kick off a week-long analysis of Budget 2018. Every day throughout the week, we'll take a look at what Budget 2018 will do for different sectors: citizens' welfare, the cost of living, affordable housing, the digital economy, education, GLCs, trade, the ringgit, the Bursa Malaysia, and the economy at large. This is Markets Today, and I'm Luqman Haris. The ringgit closed today at 4.236 against the US dollar, and the Bursa Malaysia closed 2 points higher at 1748.35 points. Today on our analysis of Budget 2018, Markets Today speaks to Dato' Izham Yusof, Group Managing Director of Bina Darulaman Berhad, BDB. Dato', welcome to Markets Today.
Thank you, Luqman.
First of all, let's start with your initial thoughts and feedback on Budget 2018, particularly to the announcements that are relating to your sector.
As it relates to property sector, we believe that in general the budget is very much expansionary, and it helps, I guess, to help the rakyat to have some additional money in the pocket for them to invest in property.
But on top of making affordable homes, which is a very important topic and one which you are involved in, a proponent of affordable housing, on top of making affordable homes more accessible to the public, will the measures announced in the budget make it easy for developers to provide and to build more affordable homes?
I think the budget was more targeted towards the rakyat. I think for us as a developer, we were expecting some tax breaks, for example, for us to use, say, for example, the technology like IBS, for example. That wasn't there. But anyway, we will still continue with providing the affordable home segment of the market, because I think that's where the large proportion of the market are looking at right now.
It's interesting because I've interviewed a lot of developers as well before the budget even, and they echoing your sentiment. They say the government should look beyond just building more units of affordable homes, but try to actually have a 360 approach to the problem of affordable housing, maybe loosening regulations, reducing taxes, as you've said. So what are your thoughts and what are your hopes moving forward now that those things are not announced in the budget?
I think sometimes initial plans from the government normally, I think for the budget especially, they were targeting a lot more on the rakyat. But I think as we move along, and we hope that there is a lot more engagement with the property players, where we can then look at the issues that we're looking at, like access to financing, especially for the first time home buyers, for example. That they can have special dispensations or special programs for them. That's a lot more targeted rather than is given as as very broadly.
Do you think the government should also have looked at financing more, making it, because some quarters are urging the government to make home financing, to make home loans more accessible to the public, and there are some who disagree to that. What is your stance on this?
I think the accessibility is not that. I think it's not that bad. I think the accessibility is there. The question is more of how can we also educate the new house buyers about the challenges of owning a house. Because actually a lot of people thought that they can just get 90%. Not everyone can get 90%. Some of them may get lower. But why is that? Is it because of they are already owing too much for other things, that their disposable income is becoming a lot less, and that's why the banks are not keen to give them a lot more than 80%, for example.
Before we go any further, maybe you can just share with us BDB's effort in providing more affordable homes in your home state of Kedah and also elsewhere in Malaysia. What have you done?
I think for us in Kedah, we have been putting a lot of efforts behind providing those. I think, for example, for 2018, the next year, we are planning about probably about 70 to 80% of our launches are below 500,000, which is the line where the government has drawn about affordable housing segment. So I think for us, we believe that there is a lot of demand for that, and we are making sure that we are meeting those demands at the right time.
All right. We'll talk more about this when we come back. We'll return with Dato' Izham Yusof, Group Managing Director of Bina Darulaman Berhad, BDB Market Studio. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Well, you're back with Market Today with me, Luman Haris. I've been speaking to Dato' Izham Yusof, Group Managing Director of Bina Darulaman Berhad, or BDB, in our analysis of the budget 2018 and the issue of affordable housing specifically, given that BDB is quite a big proponent of the issue, Dato'. Now, before the break, we talked about making housing loans or making credit more accessible for those who want to buy a house, especially first-time home buyers. But this is probably the biggest debate now in the country. So where do we find the balance between easing financing, but also not contributing to the household debt to GDP ratio, which is already close to 90%? So how do you find that balance?
Yeah, I think that's what Bina Darulaman has been saying as well. I think in terms of the loan approvals and all that, I think the Bina Darulaman has responded and said that I think relatively is still doing relatively okay historically, but I think it's also have to do with the credit worthiness of the buyers. So if they are already overgeared because of credit card purchases and also other commitments, then it will be difficult for them to get the kind of financing that they expect. So I think this is where for us at BDB, we're trying to do a lot more advocacy program or more of educating the potential house buyers about what does it take to own a house, because you don't just assume that you are going to get 90%. What if you're going to get 80%, for example, and sometimes maybe you also need to look at what is the price bracket that you are eligible for example, right? And also maybe is there a way for you to enhance your credit by doing it together with your wife or with your brother or with your sister. But I think the idea that I would encourage people to do is try to make sure that make that first house purchase as quickly as possible, because the price is going up.
And on top of all your efforts to provide more affordable housing and also to increase awareness regarding the issue, BDB is also building and embarking on new developments in a property market that is quite subdued.
Yep.
So are you worried about this?
I think we are doing this thing on the stage by stage basis. Why we are moving into this new townships, because the one that we have been doing more or less at the tail end of those projects, because we had few thousand acres, and by now we only have a few hundred acres left. So we are now looking at other parcels to be developed, and for me, we're looking at the property market will continue to grow, and we will. There are dips and ups and downs in the property sector, but overall, we are bullish that property market would be there, and the demand will always be there. So we are there to supply the houses.
The increase in unsold units now, whether residential or commercial, do you think is purely cyclical, or do you think because some of the more drastic economists are saying there's a bubble, housing
Yeah.
bubble slowly building. What do you think is actually closer to the truth in Malaysia?
For me, the way I see in Malaysia, I don't see that like what it was before, years back. I think the exposures of the banks or the listed companies to the sector is not as high as before. And for us in Kedah, especially the most of the houses are bought for owner occupation, so they are staying there. So there is not really a bubble is where people are investing for future gains or speculative gains. And I think that's where I don't see that activities are happening right now because of very tight financing and all that. So I think that's why the financing regime must be quite disciplined to ensure that the speculative activities that create the bubble.
Maybe we can touch on BDB's other businesses as well before we end the show. Through BDB Infra, road construction is also one of your pillars of business. So how will the things announced in the budget go further to help connect Malaysia's rural areas, especially Sabah and Sarawak, through road building?
I think the road building for Kedah especially, I can speak about Kedah. I think the Sabah Sarawak, they are doing the highways and all that. I think the road network has increased tremendously over the years, and I think the key thing is actually to maintain them properly, to make sure that those are taken care of. And besides that, it's also about connectivity via airports. So I think there is plans in the budget 2018 to upgrade the airport in Langkawi, for example. So we are also involved in airport construction. So I think this is good opportunities for companies in Kedah to get involved in some of the project that has been announced in the budget.
And finally, very briefly, what can your shareholders and stakeholders expect from BDB moving forward?
For 2018 especially, I think we believe that the property market is going to be experiencing a better year, and construction business also would be also driven by the announcements by the Prime Minister, and we foresee that we will be doing much better financially in terms of the bottom line compared to what we plan to do for 2017.
Thank you so much, Dato' Isham Yusof, Group Managing Director of Bina Darulaman Berhad, BDB. And that wraps up this episode of Markets Today. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram at 501 Awani. Drop your feedback. Tell us what you think about this episode. Download our app as well, as you can see, available on Google Play and also the Apple App Store. Lukman Haris, thanks for watching Markets Today. Have a nice day.